for your courage, for your determination, for your passion to fight for democracy. It is your sacrifice that encourages those of us here who are looking at how best to revive and sustain and advance our democracy in the United States. Peter, thank you for being with us in person. It's wonderful to see you here safely and in Washington. As a prominent civil society leader in South Sudan, as someone who's endured imprisonment, I'd be interested in hearing from you what you think this committee can best do to support the cultivation of democracy and peace in South Sudan, and what you can share with us about democratic trends more broadly across the continent, and what you see as the greatest threats to civil society in South Sudan and across the continent.
Thank you very much, Senator Coons, for your questions, and thank you for your support. One of the things that I remember very well from the prison was being briefed by the letter that you and Senator Booker wrote in demanding for my release. And it was I was in solitary confinement at the time, and was told that senators are speaking on your behalf, and you have to find a way to keep them quiet, which was a crazy request. Given that I was in solitary confinement. People of South Sudan are yearning for democracy. This is the reason why we sacrificed for more than 2 decades fighting a civil war and fighting for our own independent state. But as you know, we have never voted. I'm 37 years old, and I have never voted in my entire life. And that is because our president keep on postponing elections. Every time elections come up, he keep postponing them. So one thing that this committee can do is to stress the importance of the elections that are scheduled for next year to take place on time and not be delayed again. This would require, of course, getting the UN, especially the UN mission in South Sudan, on board to review its mandate so that elections are part of its mandate. It requires possibly looking at appointing a high-level UN envoy that can shepherd the country toward the conduct of this election. It also requires supporting the civil society, doing exactly as what you did before, speaking out on behalf of activists. As I speak with you, there are over 1,000 people detained in secret national security facilities across the country. So your voice matter, and it sent a message to Kiir that he's being watched and that he will be held accountable. Also urging the African Union to set up the hybrid court so that there is accountability for atrocities that have been committed in the country. But going beyond, the region, the whole Horn of Africa is in crisis. What is happening in Tigray is shocking, and it requires U.S. to speak out forcefully. Also recently, as we have seen in Uganda, elections are being held, but they are sham elections because these dictators are the one monitoring the elections and at the same time the one counting the votes. So in the end, they counted for themselves. So U.S. leadership in the region is critical because, as mentioned in the previous panel, the U.S. have been absent in the last few years and have allowed these authoritarian countries to take over, especially China. It requires really countering China.
Thank you very much, Peter. And it's, I think, our intention in this committee and elsewhere to re-engage actively in the Horn of Africa as well as throughout the rest of the world.
But in 1 minute, tell me the one thing you would want the United States to do as it relates to your specific country that you think would make a difference. Doctor?
Thank you, Chairman, for that question. For me, the one specific thing that people of South Sudan need is to exercise the right to elect their own leaders. We have never had that right. And we struggled for so long. We have sacrificed so many people for us to get our country. And since doing that, we have never had a chance to vote. The elections are supposed to take place next year. We want the U.S. help so that those elections happen and we finally get to vote. Thank you.
Well, thank all of you. You are the vivid examples of why democracy is so important and those willing to struggle for it in their respective countries. You give us all a sense of inspiration. We salute and recognize your individual sacrifices, and we thank you for sharing your stories with us in the Senate and with the world. This record will remain open until the close of business tomorrow. With the thanks of the committee to all of our witnesses, this hearing is adjourned.